Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. And today we are going to be going over NFL free agency because it has been wild, to say the least. Probably one of the craziest free agencies I can remember in recent memory. Just like thing after thing happening and just surprise move, lots of divisional rivals switching spots. Just like really shocking stuff. And particularly like good for my team, the Eagles. So that's been fun to experience that and been able to just watch the Saquon Barkley press conference. I'm it's surreal, but I'm pretty excited. I really am. Um, as the season didn't end the way anyone wanted to or expected, that was an Eagles fan, I should say. So it was crazy to see all these new moves and kind of get excited for the new year. But we're going to get into that soon. But in this video specifically, we're going to go over 3 of my winners and 3 of my losers. So I'm going to start with winners. And I think I'm going to start with the Vikings. Now, the Vikings are an interesting spot because you have the payment. You have to pay Justin Jefferson soon, and that's kind of been the topic around them. And then Kirk Cousins, coming off an Achilles injury, is a free agent. So it's like, what do you kind of want to do with your future? And they let Kirk Cousins walk for a 4-year, $180 million deal with the Falcons, which I think is probably the best. You probably don't want to sign him for that when you're about to sign a young wide receiver, when you got all this stuff going for you, and you're actually looking better than people would think you would be. So I think it's a very good. I think it's a good move for the Vikings going forward, and I think what made it good is what they did with the money they didn't spend on Kirk Cousins. So just some highlights, because they signed a lot of players, but just some highlights. They signed Jonathan Grenard, an edge from the Texans, for 4 years, $76 million. He's a really good edge, and you lose Danielle Hunter, but you get him, who's younger, and not that far off skill-wise. Then you get Blake Cashman, also from the Texans, 3 years, $25.5 million, a really good linebacker, underrated linebacker. These are just defensive pieces that you're going to see in Brian Flores' defense that's just going to plug and play and look really good. You have Andrew Van Ginkel. I think he was on the Dolphins, I believe. And just another good edge, 2 years, $20 million. Not a huge deal there, but just like solid pieces. And then you steal Aaron Jones after being released by the Packers. And it's like you lose Alexander Madison and you get Aaron Jones on a cheap deal, and it's like that's a really good running back still. So the offense is looking kind of stacked, and the defense is looking a lot better. So I really like what the Vikings did and how aggressive they were, even though you lost your quarterback, because they signed Sam Darnold to be like the bridge guy. You can draft a guy. You can kind of figure out what you want to do from there, but everything else they put in place, and I think that was really smart. So, Vikings I definitely had as a winner. Second winner, Houston Texans. They overachieved last year, one would say. They found something really special in C.J. Stroud. They got a really good young wide receiver in Tank Dell, and they are just kind of coming out from nowhere. And you have head coach DeMeco Ryans running that defense and just kind of turning this thing around. And they go to the second round of the playoffs this year. And they decide to stay being aggressive. And it's looking pretty good. So you lose the 2 players you lost with the Vikings, Cashman and Grenard. And they have a lot of parallels to their offseason so far, because they bring in Danielle Hunter for 2 years, $49 million, which is a lot, but he's also a really good player. You can argue whether it made sense to bring him other than over keeping Grenard, but you're still not getting a bad player, right? Dalton Schultz was really good for C.J. Stroud, one of his favorite targets. So you lock him up 3 years, $36 million. Not a terrible contract, don't think. Linebacker Aziz Al-Shahir, he played with the Titans, I believe, at 3 years, $34 million. He had a really good year last year. And then you sign. They signed a lot of players, so I'm not going to name all of them. But another one I want to highlight was Jeff Okudah, who was like a top 5 pick and was like supposed to be like really, really, really good. Hasn't lived up to expectations, but had a good season last year. So you bring him in for 1 year, $6 million deal, and I think it's like a low risk, high reward situation because I think he's a solid corner. But you bring him in, he's young. You're not like, if it doesn't work after this year, it doesn't work. It's a 1 year, $6 million. But if it does, then you maybe found something, you can figure out something down the road. So I think what the Texans did and just like continuing to load up on the defense, they signed 3 other cornerbacks and Mike Ford, Lonnie Johnson, and Desmond King. Desmond King was a re-sign, and Eric Murray was a re-sign. He's the safety. So it's just either bringing the defense back or bring in new pieces to make it better or replace ones that left. And I just really appreciate the aggressiveness and like the understanding that this is our moment, this is our time to compete, and we gotta do everything. Because when they had who they thought was their last franchise quarterback, who they traded to the Browns, I don't think they capitalized as much because the team around him was not that good. But now you have this team. It's like this is a good roster around C.J. Stroud, around Tank Dell. So I'm excited to see what they can do because I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the AFC next year. I don't think many's going to question me on that. So just very, very impressive. So first few days for the Houston Texans. And my last winner is my own. I had to put him in, the Philadelphia Eagles. The first thing that happened 2 hours. No, the first thing that happened was Bryce Huff from the Jets, 3 years, $51.5 million. One would say maybe an overpay, but he's a really young, rising player. Rising star. He was on the Jets, had 10 sacks last year. When we played him, he was in the backfield like every play. He's just so good getting around the edge and getting to the quarterback. It's just a good addition when we couldn't really get to the quarterback last year, and you might lose a Josh Sweat, a Son Reddick between now and next year. So it's a good signing to kind of lock him up and make your edge stronger, especially even Brandon Graham. It's going to be his last year. So yeah, it's just a good defensive signing. And then, of course, you steal Saquon Barkley from the Giants. 3 years, $37.75 million. A lot of money, but, like, it's going to be a game changer for the offense. When you're going to have Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts in the backfield, and you have out wide A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, it's like, the possibilities are endless when you have a good running offense, which you hope you're going to have with Kellen Moore. I think it's just a really good. You lose DeAndre Swift, which is like, you hate that you lost him, but at the same time, he probably wasn't worth what the Bears gave him, which I'll talk about later. So you bring in Saquon Barkley, and it's like, everyone can agree he's a better player. And he just takes your offense. He goes from like complementing your offense to like taking it to another level. So I think that was a really good signing and a good risk to take money wise, because you had money to spend it. Make the team better. We don't got Super Bowl windows only last so long. You gotta capitalize. And one of the issues with our team last year was the secondary, was the safeties, was the linebackers. So we brought back the guy that was sorely missed, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Now, there were some words exchanged from him and the fans. Questionable stuff, but the play on the field, you can't deny it. And it's going to be night and day having him back in the defense, I think. And you get him for a 3-year, $33 million deal. So it's $11 million a year. And you're like, well, why didn't they give him that last year? I don't know. But not a terrible deal. I think even if you don't sign another safety, your safety situation is much better with Reed Blankenship whenever Sidney Brown can come back, which might not even be next year. But, like, you're set up pretty good, and you can grab someone else, whether that's in the draft or maybe free agency, because there's still some names out there. So I think Eagles did overall a good job filling in their holes and just getting better. There's still, like, holes that need to be filled, but this was probably one of the best starts you could ask for. Alright, so Eagles moves that happened before I was able to edit. We trade for Kenny Pickett for a pick swap and then like 7th round pick. Others, we got a 7th round pick. They got some picks. But we got Kenny Pickett as their backup. He told the Steelers that he didn't want to compete for a starting job with Russell Wilson. So they sent him to a place where he can't compete at all. So I hope he got what he wanted. He's going to be a solid backup. We needed a backup quarterback. I'm not mad at it. What I wish I could like being in the 3rd round, but how we can get right back in that. So I'm not really tripping about that too hard. Yeah, and then we also signed Devin White, which I kind of give like a C grade to. I mean, it's like a 1-year deal. I don't think he's going to be really that great, but also he's probably better than what we had. So I'm not complaining much. It's a linebacker. We need linebacker help. There wasn't much on the market as far as linebackers, so I'm not too mad at it. I'm really not. We're going to go to our losers. So first loser, the Dallas Cowboys, who have done nothing, and they re-signed their long snapper and then signed Eric Kendricks for a 1-year deal. And they didn't sign anyone because they have a lot of guys that they're going to have to pay, which is CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, and Dak Prescott, and you got to figure all that out. And Dak Prescott is on their books this year for nearly $60 million. So there was only so much they could do, but the fact that you do nothing to get better when there are glaring holes is a problem. And when you tell the fan base you're going to go all in, and your definition of all in is different than everyone else's definition of all in, it's a problem. It's going to be a problem. Now, they have the draft. They have trades they could do. But right now, I'm judging right now, it's not very promising. If you roll this roster out right now, week 1, I don't think you're probably not better than the Eagles, and you're not better than the 49ers, and you're not better than the Lions, and you might not be better than the Packers. You might get beat by the Packers, so it's like moves got to be made to get better when there was glaring issues that made you lose in the first round. And now, the Bears, which is, they're losers because they had the golden opportunity, man. They had $63.8 million in cap space. That's the 4th most. 4th most in the league. They had a chance to make splash after splash after splash, filling in holes the best way you could possibly do it. And as soon as the league year opened and the tampering period opened, they announced DeAndre Swift, 3 years, $24 million. Already had a solid running game. Had money to spend, and they spent it on a running back who doesn't really change much from what they already had. And it's like, what's the thinking there? It's just a splash move that doesn't really move the needle much. He's a good player. I saw him firsthand as an Eagles fan. He's a good player, but it didn't make sense for what you're trying to do. Good thing they did was re-sign Jalen Johnson, 4 years, $76 million. He's a really good cornerback that they needed to lock down, because letting him walk would leave a hole. And then you sign like Gerald Everett, Kevin Byard, Jonathan Owens, who's terrible. And it's just like, it's just all these deals that, like, nothing. Nothing gets you better. Nothing that you brought in new got you better. And it's like, you had the golden opportunity. This was such a good free agent class. And now most of the really good pieces are gone. And you come out of there with DeAndre Swift and Simone Pile's husband. I don't know, man. It's not great. I would not be happy as a Bears fan. Okay, Bears fans, you can be a little happy. A little happy. Because after I record this video, y'all trade for Keenan Allen for a 4th round pick. Because the Chargers had to get rid of players. Because they had no cap space. And it's really bad when you're getting rid of players and you haven't had playoff success. But that's what you get when you have the team you constructed. And Bears, you guys get a good receiver. You're building around Caleb Williams. Probably should have done it around Justin Fields more. But hey, focus on the present, I guess. So, I still don't like the moves in general, but this is fine. This is good. And my final loser is the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars, again, before last year, they ring Calvin Ridley, and they're like, okay, this is the Jaguars' year. We made it to the playoffs. We had that huge upset. We competed with the Chiefs. It's time. And they get Calvin Ridley, and they get other players. They bottom out, and they miss the playoffs. And it's like, dang, this is not great, and this is the sign to, like, be aggressive and fix things and bring back Josh Allen, the edge rusher, not the quarterback, and maybe get Calvin Ridley and get some other good receivers in there and get better. Just get better, please. First thing to do was, like, Gabe Davis for 3 years, $39 million, and it's like a wide receiver that doesn't give you much more. It's like he's an okay wide receiver. Just not where you put poor resources into. You franchise tag Josh Allen, can't get a deal done, so who knows if he is here for longer than a year. You trade for Mac Jones. That's what you're thinking of? I understand the backup quarterback situation makes you feel like you got to get a backup quarterback, but this is you could have done a lot with that 6th round pick. That's better than Mac Jones for your team. I promise you. It's just, I would be annoyed as a Jaguars fan. You bring in Mitch Morse as a center, so maybe your offensive line gets a little better. You bring in Darnell Savage for 3 years, I guess. And then you just signed Eric Armstead for 3 years, $51 million, right before I recorded this video. And it's like, that's probably the best deal you've done. But it's like when you have Trevor Lawrence, and when he hasn't been able to break out, like really just take over the league, and you don't make things better for him. This is how teams run into a wall. This is how the Derek Carr situation happens, where he's a franchise quarterback, but he doesn't win a playoff game in 10 years. This is how this stuff happens, because the teams just bottom out. You couldn't get a deal done with Calvin Ridley, and the Titans come out of nowhere, 4 years, $92 million, bam, we stole him from you. Now, I think that's a bad contract on their part, but they stole a good player from you, because you waited too long. So it's just a disaster from the Jaguars' part, and I just don't know. I don't see the upside here. They don't get that much better, and they might miss the playoffs again because the Texans got better. The Colts are getting better. It's a shame. It really is. So let me know what you think. Who are your winners? Who are your losers? Did you disagree with me? Did you agree with me? I hope you did. Subscribe, like, share. Please subscribe. A lot of people that watch this don't subscribe. And if you could just like scroll down and hit subscribe, I would really, really appreciate it. Alright, that's all. Peace out.